there, thanks for joining us for ARC Salt Lake. I'm Jamie McGriff. It's Friday, May 16th, and tonight we are taking a look at some concerns that all Utahns face when summer finally rolls around. Starting with some uninvited and unwelcomed guests, the Mormon crickets. They're back. Those insects have popped up and in the Fillmore area, and this is video here showing thousands of them on a dirt road. And according to Utah State University, the recent sighting was expected. Still concerning. The outbreak can cause severe damage to crops, especially wheat and alfalfa. Mormon crickets are most active in the spring when their eggs hatch. As the warmer weather moves in, so do the creepy crawlies, box elder bugs to black widows. They're entering homes across Utah. Our Brian Wills spoke to local bug experts today to find out how you can keep them away and which ones will be worse to deal with this year. Take a listen.
Each pesticide is going to have a different active ingredient. When we pass out guarantees based off of the treatments that we do, it's got a list of those active ingredients so customers can do their own research, make sure that what we're treating with is safe for use in public spaces. But everything we treat with has been really well regulated, tested. It's all safe for kids and for pets. Everything that we use inside and outside is safe.
And when do you know if you should call the pest control company? Like when is it a problem? It's just one or two, or when do you realize it's a bigger problem and need to call you guys?
I think it's different for everybody. Some people, they see one spider and they want to get it taken care of, and some people are happy to see a couple and they don't mind so much. I would say it's going to be on a pest per pest basis, but you can always just give us a call if you have questions about when would be an appropriate time to take care of them. Some pests are easier to do preventative measures on, and some are a little bit harder to do that on.
Is there some home remedies that also work a little bit?
I've heard some people use diatomaceous earth, which is kind of just a sharp dust-like spread that you can put around the edges of your home. It just kind of cuts up the outer carapace of pests. Doesn't necessarily kill them outright, but it makes them more susceptible to diseases and pesticides. Other than that, really all you can do is scare them away with stuff like peppermint oils. You're not going to be able to really kill them outright.
Is there anything people shouldn't do when it comes to pests?
Don't go overboard. Don't go crazy. I've been to a couple of houses where, say I'm taking care of bed bugs and they see a handful of bed bugs and they're scary, right? You want to get rid of them. But they will just douse the house in diatomaceous earth, and you can't put your hand on a couch without sending up a plume of dust, smoke into your lungs. So don't do that. Take it easy. It's not the end of the world. And if you're worried about something like that, then just reach out to the professionals. Make sure that you're getting some good advice. We are trained as pest control technicians to know the appropriate amount, the appropriate dilution for the solutions that we use, and where to apply them and when not to apply them. So there are certain pesticides that are outdoor use only. They're limited use. We want to make sure that those are being used properly. For instance, with diatomaceous earth, it's not inherently toxic to people, but if you're breathing that stuff in consistently, it can really mess up your lungs and you can start coughing and sneezing.
I know probably not too much in this area, but you see any Mormon crickets or things like that?
It hasn't been too bad. I've seen a couple houses where they've gotten out of control in specific parts of the country. I think last year we had a big migration of crickets that kind of swept over the whole state. That was absolutely insane. But we're not seeing a lot of that this year. It seems like they kind of come on the same yearly cycle. It may be a couple years before we see a big swing in crickets in this area at least.
And how do you make sure you don't bring home pests? You know, you're treating them all day, so how do you make sure you're good when you go home?
Spiders and ants I'm not too worried about, but if I treat a bed bug house, all the clothes go right in the wash as soon as I get home. I don't touch any furniture, I don't go into the bedroom, nothing.
And speaking of pests, it's almost that time of year when mosquito abatement trucks will be making the rounds. This happens early in the morning or late evening. The spray targets adult mosquitoes. Up in Davis County, you can fill out an online form requesting a spray in your neighborhood, and the county will look into that request. And if a mosquito threshold is met, a truck company, or at least the truck, will come out and spray. The website for the form is available on your screen. As summer is quickly approaching in Utah, wildfires are also a valid concern. Emergency leaders increasingly warning about a different kind of firefight. The word wildfire implies that fires will happen in the wild, far removed from populated areas. But as Lincoln Graves explains, urban fires can be a big danger too.
Wildfire danger along the Wasatch Front isn't just confined to forest land or the foothills.
The first year we were here, I was like...
It's crossed Marie Riker's mind in the middle of the Salt Lake Valley.
Well, maybe a little bit in the summertime when all the green weeds turn brown.
About 28 years.
As well as the mind of her neighbor, Randy Hansen.
These weeds here on the hillside here just start to get out of hand.
Marie and Randy live in a quiet Murray neighborhood, far from deep forests or rugged hillsides. I-215 is just 100 yards away. But across the street, the Jordan River Parkway. A peaceful, tranquil place most of the time, but where vegetation can dry out and become fuel for wildfires.
You live in the middle of the valley, basically, right? You're far from the mountains.
Right.
But you've worried about wildfire before.
Oh yeah. Yeah, after seeing, the fires in LA and everything and how devastating it can just destroy a whole neighborhood in a heartbeat.
The Los Angeles wildfires are the most recent example of how flames can race through urban neighborhoods, killing people and destroying homes. It also happened in Lahaina, Hawaii, nearly 2 years ago. It even happened in the dead of winter in Colorado, when the Marshall Fire burned more than 1,000 homes. Utah firefighters recognize the danger here, too.
Theoretically, and there is a possibility here in Salt Lake that we could have the same thing.
We have the conditions here being in a desert state where that could potentially happen here.
One Oregon firefighter explained that when a fire spreads to a neighborhood in extreme fire weather conditions, everything changes.
But then it moves into something that is very different, and that is that structure-to-structure ignition. And at that point, I no longer term it a wildfire.
An urban conflagration. As more structures burn, billions of embers are blown far and wide, catching even more on fire. A catastrophic domino effect.
It's almost like a rain of fire. We've all seen the video of those initial moments in California where it literally was raining fire. And those embers just get in there and they can grow and they can wreak havoc.
A key plan of attack for such a fire is preventing wildfires from spreading to neighborhoods. In Salt Lake City, fire crews have wildland-specific fire stations, like this one in the Avenues, with different types of engines to access rugged terrain. That terrain isn't just in the foothills. It includes areas along the Jordan River, also part of the wildland-urban interface.
But you can have the same wind-driven event out there and do just as much damage as anything up near a footland.
That's not lost on Marie. While she loves living near the river, she has occasionally wondered if bad behavior might prove disastrous.
We get a lot of walkers through here, and I guess if somebody's smoking and drops their cigarette, I guess it could be.
Randy Hansen worries much more. As river vegetation grows and dries out, he takes matters into his own hands.
I get over there with my own private lawnmower and take it down, cut it down, just try to clean it up and make it nice.
How far up do you go?
I go the whole way, all the way there and all the way down to where it bends.
A last stand effort to stop a wildfire from spreading to his home and the homes of his neighbors.
Keep an eye on it, because we could be in the same boat LA was. You just never know.
Lincoln Graves, KUTV 2 News.
The Salt Lake City Fire Department will conduct a defensible space assessment on your home free of charge, depending on where you live. But homeowners anywhere, even in urban neighborhoods, are encouraged to plan for fires even if they think they don't live in a danger area. Coming up on ARC Salt Lake, I'm sharing the backstory behind why Japanese immigrants chose to move and settle in the Beehive State during the late 1800s. Anytime you hear of people moving, it's often driven by the desire of wanting a better life. The Beehive State provided that opportunity for those willing to take the risk and step into unfamiliar territory. On July 1st, 1862, President Abraham Lincoln signed the Pacific Railroad Act into law. That law authorized the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad. It connected the eastern United States to the Pacific coast. The rail line went from Sacramento, California through Ogden and brought jobs with it and members of the Asian community.
And so there was an explosion of them. And so along with, the railroad workers, then you would get, like I said, all those businesses that helped support that community and still continue to give them a sense of home.
Sarah Langston is the curator and co-head of special collections at Weber State University. Langston is building a history archive about the Japanese community in Ogden.
So with the Transcontinental Railroad, it was a lot of Chinese who came. But then with the Chinese Exclusion Act, where they weren't allowed to come into the United States anymore, the railroaders needed some sort of workforce.
And this is where we bring in Dr. Kent Ono.
My Japanese side, my Japanese grandparents came to the U.S. in the early 20th century, and they were brought here really to do labor.
Dr. Ono is a distinguished professor at U of U's Department of Communications.
I do a lot of things in communications, so I'm trained in rhetoric, but I study media and film, and I study ethnic and critical cultural studies.
He explained Chinese workers were first recruited to work on the railroad.
It was very common for laborers to have terrible conditions and low pay. They would challenge their employers' conditions and the wages that they were receiving, and what would then happen is new groups of people would be found to replace them. So after the Chinese exclusion era, which begins in the 1880s, that is when you start to see the first Japanese Americans coming to Utah. But for my family, it was Sheridan, Wyoming, which seems sort of out of the way.
On May 10, 1869, in Promontory, Utah, the final spike was driven into the ground, joining the rail lines of the country's first transcontinental railroad. The Japanese and Chinese rail workers helped to change the Mountain West and make history. A former Utah State Aggie basketball player is facing drug charges in Indonesia and could be sentenced to death. 34-year-old Dallas native Jared Shaw was arrested last week. Authorities accuse him of attempting to smuggle drugs into the country. Police searched Shaw's apartment and allegedly found more than 100 pieces of Delta-9 THC cannabis candies. Officials say a package was sent from Thailand to Shaw's apartment. According to Indonesian authorities, Shaw could receive a life sentence or a death penalty if convicted. The chairman of the Indonesian Basketball Association said it does not tolerate drug use in basketball. Shaw's team said his contract has been terminated. The Armed Forces Day concert is less than 24 hours away. This is the 22nd year for the concert, honoring our military men and women. Tomorrow at 4:30 at the Gallivan Center, the Utah National Guard rock combo, Article 15, will take the stage. The Choral Arts Society of Utah, the 23rd Army Band, and the Utah Military Academy Choir, they'll start at 5:30. Admission is free. Meteorologist Chase Thomason has our first alert forecast.
We have some big changes as we head into the weekend. Here we go. Rain chances definitely increasing as we head into your Saturday afternoon. But the main event looks like it'll be late Saturday night and into Sunday morning. So widespread rain will be moving in. This is good news because we definitely need the moisture. Now, as we head into next week, though, we will be drying out. Still can't rule out a stray shower on Monday. More on that, so we're going to walk you through it in just a moment. Today, we saw temperatures in the mid-60s for most of northern Utah. That is a few degrees milder compared to where we've been, but we're still below normal. We're we're supposed to be in the 70s this time of year. Close to 70 out in eastern Utah, Cedar at 71, and St. George was a pretty nice day at 85 degrees. Light breeze. Those wind speeds will be relaxing, though, overnight. Those overnight lows will be cooling off into the 50s and 60s in the low deserts of Utah. In central and northern Utah, overnight lows in the 40s and 50s, so any evening plans should be dry. There might be a stray sprinkle or two, but grab your jacket because it will be cooling off for tonight. Tomorrow, those winds begin to increase out of the southwest around 20 to 30 miles per hour. It's going to be a warm wind, so temperatures climbing into the 70s for a good chunk of northern and central Utah. We'll start to see, though, an increase in those showers and storms out in Nevada, then rolling into Utah by tomorrow afternoon. And you'll see this on Future Track. Notice the cloud cover. Now, as that moisture begins to increase, we can't rule out maybe a light shower tomorrow morning here in northern Utah. If you still need to mow your lawn or you have soccer games Saturday morning, you should be okay. Nothing too heavy, but don't be surprised to see a light shower. Things really get going, though, by the afternoon and evening. Notice we'll see these thunderstorms roll in, especially after 5 o'clock, and there is a risk for severe weather with some of these thunderstorms. Probably not going to see any hail or anything too heavy, but it's those microburst winds, potentially over 60 miles per hour. So some strong winds. Make sure everything is secure if we do, in fact, see that severe weather. Then that severe threat will likely decrease by Saturday night as the widespread rain begins to move in across western Utah, from Logan all the way down to St. George. And then look at Sunday morning. We have widespread rain in the valleys and snow in the mountains of northern and central Utah. Snow levels down to about 7,000 feet, and it's going to really accumulate in the high country. By Sunday afternoon, though, not as widespread, but a few lingering showers are possible. And it's a good drink of water. I think many valleys in northern and central Utah can expect a 1/4 inch to a 1/2 inch of rain, with locally higher totals definitely possible, especially here along the Wasatch Front. Mentioned the snow in the mountains. A few of our ski resorts are still open. We could see about 5 to 10 inches of snow this weekend. Maybe some of those higher valleys like Park City and Evanston could see a dusting to 1 inch or 2 on grassy surfaces. But just give it some time as we head into next week. Those temperatures will be warming up with this big ridge of high pressure, and that high could linger into next weekend with some pretty warm temperatures here in Utah. St. George is going to be windy for tomorrow. Just an isolated shower or thunderstorm Sunday and Monday as we cool into the 70s. Then we're back into the 90s beginning on Wednesday. Salt Lake, 74 for tomorrow, but look at that cooler weather. 50s on Sunday and Monday. But here comes that warmer weather. 70s Tuesday, Wednesday. Then we're in the 80s beginning on Thursday.
Coming up on Arc Salt Lake, are you up for a swim? Why this man is diving into the same water where the classic horror film Jaws was filmed 50 years ago. A Slovenian statue of the First Lady Melania Trump has been stolen. The bronze sculpture was in place along a river in central Slovenia, where Mrs. Trump was born in 1970. You can see it there. Authorities learned of the theft Tuesday, and according to local media, most of the statue was sawed off. So the only thing that was left, ankles and feet. Authorities say they've inspected the area and collected information from the scene. They just don't have any suspects. This is the second incident in 5 years. Okay, so in 2020, a wooden statue of Mrs. Trump at the very same location was destroyed by arsonists. Wow. All right, a daring endurance athlete is setting out to become the first person ever to swim around Martha's Vineyard. You want to talk about a long swim. That's it right there. 55-year-old Lewis Pugh dove into the frigid waters off of the coast of Massachusetts. And you already know it's cold up there. This happened Thursday. The only thing that he wore was his blue swim trunks, a cap, and goggles. That's it. Swimming out there almost nonstop, probably nonstop. This is the same location where the classic horror film Jaws was filmed, and this was 50 years ago. Pugh has said that his mission is to change public perception about how the now at-risk animals often depicted as predators in movies. He's expecting to complete this 62-mile swim, 62 miles, folks. All of that he plans to finish in 12 days. Wow. Something to think about. Babies are born at the hospital all the time, but this one was born right outside of the entrance. At Providence Hospital in Anchorage, Alaska, one mama moose decided that she wanted to have a more stereotypical human birth experience. Dozens of people, they watched the pair from a safe distance from inside the hospital. And that was definitely a treat for both parents and staff who got a chance to witness that birth and also see that calf start taking some of its first steps and nursing. Fish and Game officials say that if you see a moose like this, assume that there might be a baby nearby and you want to make sure to keep your distance. Same thing with mom. Keep your distance. Have a good night.